Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Yo, what up, everybody? It is Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's your boys, Mike and Mish, with the Mike and Mish Show. What up, Mike?
Hello, Kyle. What is up? Welcome, everybody else. It is Wednesday, baby, and you know what time it is.
Dude.
Time for the Mike and Mish Show.
You see how I'm dressed right now? Shit, hold up.
Yeah, like Bill Belichick, kind of, but just with a little bit of sleeves.
You see how, no. I'm a fucking Little League coach right now, dude.
Oh, I see.
Stonington Little League right here. I just got done. We had practice and then a league meeting. So I got home at 8:35, sweaty as shit, tired of everything. But we have a huge show tonight. We got our boy John Morgan coming back on. One of the most respected guys in all of MMA journalism. We're going to get, because we talked to him almost a year ago.
Yeah.
A whole lot of shit has happened in the world of bare knuckle since then. But real quick, so we don't get in trouble, before we talk to John, we just got to shout out our sponsors real quick, which is Bucked Up. Go to buckedup.com, buy some Bucked Up supplements, get some Bucked Up energy drinks. They're all sugar-free. They're all delicious. All the supplements are super clean. Get you jacked up for the summer. Use promo code Mike and Mish 20, get 20% off your total purchase. Right, Mike?
That is correct. Total purchase, 20%, save a little dough, and take that dough over to Dynamic Life. Sexual health, weight loss, and anti-aging. Retake control of your life by reaching optimal health. Visit www.livedynamic.com. It's the only online platform where you can become a patient in under 20 seconds. Also, check out their Instagram page at Live Dynamic. That's L-I-V, no E, Dynamic on Instagram. Boom.
And go ahead and get that Mike and Mish stack. You get the Bucked Up supplements. You get the Dynamic Life. You live forever. You lose weight. You stop losing your hair. You get jacked, and you dynamo in the bedroom. Right, Mike?
That's right. I mean, it's the best life ever, right? It's the best
life ever. Hey, so we got a huge guest coming on. We're going to go ahead and bring him right in. Mike, what do you say?
Hey, what do you say? What do you know? Okay, in just a moment, we'll be bringing on John Morgan. But guess what? We're gonna go back in time a little bit and check out a little conversation that we had the last time he was on, and then what followed. And when we come back, John Morgan. Here we go.
Think a Conor McGregor bare knuckle fight could ever happen? I think you might have answered that earlier. Maybe.
Yeah, we touched on it, but I'll reiterate it.
Over.
Yeah, I'll reiterate. I think it absolutely could. I mean, look, he'd have to get all the way through his contract, because if he retires with fights left on his deal, like the UFC is not just going to let him go. Right. So there'd have to be a lot of steps to take, but I would say maybe I would give it. I think it absolutely could happen.
Man, when he said it in the ring, that was one thing. And then he did the interview with Ariel Helwani out in Ireland, and he was so adamant about how into that sport he was, and how like it's impossible to have a boring match. And yeah, I'd be into this. I'd be into it. I was starting to believe it too, but he does have to play out his contract, and they have to let him go.
There's a whole lot of hurdles to get there, but as far as just being a willing participant who wants to do it, absolutely. Now, you might have to give him like 40% of the company for it to happen, but I mean, I mean, there is a possibility.
Shit, they might let him buy in at that point.
Yeah, maybe the Feldmans are ready to okay, hey, we're done with the company. We'll give some of it to Conor and someone else. Take off right into the sunset.
There you go.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
John, what they say is the future is told on the Mike and Mish show. It is amazing. Oh, what's going on? Welcome back to the show.
Kind of feels like maybe we were onto something there, huh? I mean, it's funny to watch that back, a little trip down memory lane, but maybe we were ahead of the curve a little bit.
You know what?
It's pretty cool.
We saw him out there in Denver at BKFC 41, and we saw how into it he was, and how rich he is and how much of a businessman he is. You know what? I'm not surprised. Motherfuckers.
to steal a line, right? Steal a line that he might not appreciate you stealing, but maybe he'd prefer you to use one of his own there. But it's absolutely right. I mean, look, obviously we were just talking about, hey, possibilities and whatever, but you have to think forward, right? Think about the way Conor McGregor thinks. Think about as a businessman, the biggest star in combat sports, clearly, you know what I mean? His name brings a lot to the table. And, when I said that, and I really still feel the same, like if you ask me the same question, could he compete in BKFC? I'll tell you the same thing. Still a lot of hurdles, even with him as part of the ownership group, still a lot of hurdles to clear, but I just think he's that guy. I think he loves competition so much he absolutely could. But, man, we started talking about hurdles that needed to be cleared. A couple of them are already getting done out of the way. It wouldn't be hard for him to reach up, have a little business meeting and say, fellas, I think it's time you put me on a card.
Oh, man. I cannot wait until that day. That's for sure.
Dude, let's just jump right into that. Like the first time we had you on here, we talked a lot about what we've seen so far in the BKFC and like your come up in MMA compared to what you're seeing with the BKFC. And there's a lot of similarities and whatnot. But since then, they've had the merger between Triller and AGBA. Conor bought in. ABC rule set has been put in place. We talked about that last time you were on, and you were like, there is a meeting coming up in Vegas soon. That happened. We're in California now. We're in Mohegan Sun. Are you surprised at any of this? Like they are growing at such a meteoric rate right now. It's just kind of crazy to us because we've been around for the ride the whole time. But what are your thoughts on this? Since a year ago when we talked, so much has happened with the BKFC.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because you say, are you surprised? I'm not surprised because this is the playbook, right? But I am surprised in just how rapidly it's happening, how quickly it's progressing, right? They're doing all the right things. And really, I would tell you, I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but man, it's amazing to me to see the way that BKFC is now mentioned among all MMA media as, hey, this is a possible competing organization. This is another outlet. look, it's not mixed martial arts. It is, of course, combat sport. It's a great combat sport. And it's a great outlet and a great possibility. But it's really interesting to see even the MMA media now, who, by the way, in the beginning, we're very adversarial to the BKFC. It has been. I'm sure you guys have been interested to see how people turn, right? In the beginning, they're like, oh, this crazy thing is ridiculous. It'll never stick around. So all of a sudden, like, oh, no, we love this. It's an amazing outlet. And I'm telling you, it mirrors MMA exactly. I mean, it really does. They've gone through the same thing. It's like these stages of development of what happens. In the beginning, people are like, no, this is ridiculous. It can't stick around, blah, 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 to where the point they finally go, okay, now I'm starting to accept it. So to answer your question, not surprised, but very surprised at how quickly it's moving along.
Why do you think the media jumped on? Do you think, like, so fast? Do you think it's because of the matchups and the growth so fast? Or do you think it's because of the actual sport itself and the excitingness of it? And now that people are paying attention, they realize, and also how they've been keeping record of injuries to show that, yeah, sure, it's inherently dangerous, but it's not more or less dangerous than really any other combat sport.
I think the statistical analysis is what allowed people to feel more comfortable with it. And it was incredibly intelligent to do, right? Because nobody really knew. I mean, in the beginning, we think it would be like more injuries. We think it would be more problems. But I don't think that's necessarily what got people to get on board. It's just kind of what allows them to be on board, to feel like, okay, wait a minute. I am seeing this thing, and now I see this analysis over here, and it's okay. Look, I think there's a couple of things going on. Number one, BKFC has done a great job of identifying athletes that make sense, names that make sense, names that have crossover appeal. And I think that's still going to be very valuable for a long time, right? I mean, I don't know. It's still going to take a while until you have kind of like, quote unquote, born and bred BKFC athletes. It just came up through that system. You still need that crossover appeal. That matters, right? But the other thing is, and I can tell you as a longtime member of the MMA media, if it resonates with fans, if the clicks are there, you're going to support it with coverage. And I think that's what you're seeing is that, look, you look at a Mike Perry who has quickly become the face of the organization, the face of the sport. But, it's not that media is covering it because they feel obligated to. It's because they're covering it because the traffic, it demands that it be done. And so it's a little bit of all these things happening at the same time. And it's smart in the way that everything's being handled, the way that everything's being addressed.
You recently talked to Dave Feldman, who great guy, right? Like David Feldman, he's kind of a visionary, and I think that's why Conor is attracted to him. Like he gets what David's doing, and I think they're on the same page, and they could take this thing to the next level. One thing that Dave said Conor had said was growing people within the company, the homegrowns, like you just said, a born and bred bare knuckle fighter. Mike and I had been trying to push, trying to stir up the Mike Perry versus Dave Mundell 175-pound title. And we were all but, done with it, right? It's off to the pasture. That fight's never going to happen. Mike Perry has no interest in it at all. And then all of a sudden, Conor comes along as a partial owner, and he says, let's grow these guys from within. And the next thing you know, he's on your podcast, Dave Feldman, and says, and there's also the fight with Dave Mundell. And I'm like, holy shit. Do you think that is like part of the Conor effect there? Like he is interested in growing the sport within. So where a fight that didn't make sense for Dave Mundell and Mike Perry before all of a sudden makes sense for the company?
I think so. And I think it's kind of more indirectly than directly, right? I mean, Dave Feldman, the way he's leveraged this thing, man, he's been putting his butt on the line every single time out there, right? And he's got to get the most interest possible. I mean, and that's what you have to do. Every time you go out there, you're trying to get as much fan interest as possible. And I got to be honest with you, it might be tough to develop interest in a Mike Perry, Dave Mundell matchup. Now, if you can tell the story, it makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? But you're like, yeah, but man, I'm trying to sell sponsors. I'm trying to sell tickets. I'm trying to sell advertising. I don't know if people are going to buy into this. But then if you're like, hey, wait a minute, I can tell this story and I can have Conor McGregor tell it. And I can have Conor McGregor be involved in this because, in that interview that you referenced, I mean, I thought Dave Feldman nailed it. It's just the what Conor does is open doors. Like phone calls get answered when Conor McGregor is involved, right? Meetings get held when Conor McGregor is involved. People buy in when Conor McGregor is involved. So you might take a little pressure off your shoulders if you say, look, I'm not sure this is the matchup, right? Because let's look at it. Like the Thiago Alves fight. Love Thiago Alves. MMA legend, incredible guy. I mean, like you in the MMA circles, I cannot tell you how much this man is respected as both a fighter and a coach. But if you're really trying to lay out why the fight made sense, it's like, well, does it? I mean, if you're looking from a pure meritocratic standpoint, like the Dave Mundell fight is the fight that really does make sense. But you're trying to make sure that fan interest remains as high as possible, that, media interest remains as high as possible. And so that's why you go with a name like Thiago Alves. Now, when you have Conor McGregor to fall back on and lean on, now maybe you can get a little bit more conservative in how you match things up. So I think it is, a little bit maybe more indirectly than directly part of a Conor McGregor. But I honestly think that fight can happen. And I think there's a way to sell it. You tell the story. It makes sense. There's a way to sell that fight.
They have a history. That's it.
They do have a history. They have a big history. And a lot of it was Mike Perry saying, like, hey, I've already beaten you twice in MMA. Why the hell would I fight you in BKFC? I'm looking for money fights and money fights only. He's kind of progressed in his career, which kind of brings us to this new version of Mike Perry, which you've seen Mike Perry and UFC. You saw his rise and maybe a little bit of a fall, but not completely, because then he took off and he comes to BKFC and now he's a star. He's the face of bare knuckle. And he went through some trials and tribulations on his way over here. All the different, the bar scene, the window thing with kicking the glass, like. But now that he's in bare knuckle, he's the face, and he's kind of like turned his life around, so to say. Like, he's a family man. He's looking towards the future. He wants money. What do you think about the way that Mike Perry or who he is nowadays?
I'm so happy for Mike Perry, man. It's funny. I had a chance to speak to him not that long ago as well. But it was funny because I had ran into him a few months earlier at a UFC fight. He was actually in the crowd for a UFC fight. And after the fight was over, I happened to see him in the crowd now. And I went and told him, I was like, bro, I'm just so happy for you for everything that's going on right now. And not just what's accomplishing for you as a fighter, but just at least the way it seems to me from the outside looking in, the way things are going in life. You know what I mean? And look, I always try to explain to people that I don't think sometimes is understood, that a normal, well-adjusted human being usually doesn't decide that, like, I'm going to be a professional cage fighter for a living. This is the best, most intelligent path for me in my professional future, is to strip down to my underwear, jump into a steel cage, and fight another trained killer. You know what I mean? It's not. But Mike Perry, he definitely had some hurdles along the way, man. He definitely had some issues on the way. And I won't sit here and try to say that, like, Mike Perry is a perfect human being and everything that he's ever done has been incredible. But I'm very much a person that's about second chances, that's about growth. I've made a lot of mistakes in my own life. You know what I mean? That who hasn't made bad mistakes? But fortunately, we didn't have a media sitting there ready to pounce on it all and put it out there for everybody in the world to see. So Mike Perry made some huge mistakes along the way, but it just seems like he's in a really good place personally, professionally right now. And he's the perfect face of BKFC right now and of the entire bare knuckle world. So I'm ecstatic to see where he's at right now. And I love the fact that, that interview with Dave Feldman, he said, look, Mike gets it, because it is one of those weird situations. Like, the Mundell fight does make sense on some levels, but Mike Perry's name, opens up a lot of opportunities as well. So there's a lot of opportunities on the table. But I love the fact that Mike Perry is saying, look, if I don't get the title, which he absolutely deserves to fight for the title, I get it. I'm okay with that. I don't take that as disrespect, because there's a lot of people that might say, wait a minute, why are you not putting me in a title fight? Quit disrespecting me like that. I deserve this belt. And I love, the Dave Feldman was like, does the belt matter or does the money matter? And he's like, well, say less. Say less, sir. Let's put me in those money fights. So I don't know. It's just the way it's all coming together is beautiful. But I'm telling you, Mike Perry is a guy that dealt with some demons. There's absolutely no question about it. And it may still be dealing with those demons. But, man, it just seems like everything is coming together in his life. And I'm happy for it. And I was happy to actually get to tell him that face to face.
And Mike and I were actually talking about this earlier, and it is kind of crazy if you really do think about it. He did come over to the quote unquote more gladiator, grimy sport, but he left, established MMA to come over to this blood sport and then matured. You know what I mean? Like you would think it would be the other way around. Like you left the UFC to go to this mom and pop bare knuckle disgusting sport. He's going down a path, but no, he actually went the opposite direction. Matter of fact, I don't
took the bull by the horns, as they say.
I don't think he'll mind, dude. I reached out to him today, and I asked him if he saw what Sean Strickland said about bare knuckle and about Bryce. Like he kind of shit on it, right? He did. Sean Strickland today just absolutely shit on bare knuckle fighting, like Sean Strickland does about most things, but. I asked Mike what his opinion was. This is like something I don't think he understands business. He thinks all pros get paid, but doesn't understand that you have to gain this type of experience to get compensated fairly. You have to fight for free a lot to get a chance to fight pro for a couple $100 and a couple $100,000 unless you get famous without fighting, and then you get paid good to fight. If you get famous without fighting, you can get paid good. But I'm like, wow, I thought Mike would have been like, fuck that dude. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, wow, he is a grown, matured fighter.
He knows what he's doing.
I really appreciate it. He gets the business side. And I think that's what, like he got it so much in the ring that one time in Denver. Like we found out afterwards that he was supposed to call out Cowboy Cerrone. But in that moment in time, he was business savvy enough to know that Conor's sitting right over there. Cowboy's over there. Conor's over there. I'm supposed to do this, but fuck that. I'm going to go this way. And I'm going to call in the biggest star in all of combat sports, and I'm going to make something viral out of it. And the next thing you know, 8 months later, Conor's buying into the damn company. Like, perfect, man. Unbelievable.
It's truly amazing. No, it's truly amazing. He really is starting to understand it. And look, I mean, there's something to be said, right? I mean, look, Mike Perry could have had a continued MMA career. He could have continued fighting in the UFC. Like, there were opportunities for him. He was always exciting. He was always fun. Was he ever going to be a UFC champion? I don't think so. But, you don't have to be a champion to get people interested in you and people to want to see you fight. And that's what it's all about, right? Is people wanting to see you fight. And so I think he could have been that. But he realizes, like, man, there's an opportunity to go be the face of something, to go be the leader of something. And look, man, it's scary to do that, right? To step out on that ledge and to do that, as you said, to go down a path with a mom and pop company and, all these things. And he said, you know what, I'm going to take that chance. I'm going to take that risk. And it turns out, man, he's absolutely perfect for it. So he gets it. And listen, man, it's interesting, right? Because Sean Strickland is a guy that, man, I mean, Sean Strickland was fighting mediocrity for a long time, right? He wasn't like a popular guy. Like it's come relatively late for him in his career and how many fights he's put in. But I think he was a guy that did it in the UFC, and that all came in the UFC. So therefore, there's a lot of loyalty to the UFC. He grinded in King of the Cage. He grinded in, again, relative mediocrity for the UFC, and then the UFC gave him these opportunities. Now he delivered. He's the one that absolutely stepped up and delivered on them. But all that growth happened for him in the UFC. So I think that creates a lot of loyalty for him within it. So I get Sean Strickland's point of view. And again, what's funny, and I'm sure you guys have found this out, and I'm telling you, it echoes MMA exactly, is you talk to somebody that's critical of it, and you ask them what why they think it's terrible, et cetera, and then you ask them how many fights they've seen.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
It's usually 0. No, I've never tuned into it. How can you criticize something you haven't seen?
I will say this. Sean did leave the door open. Like, he did say, if they offer me enough money, maybe I'd fucking do it. Yeah, I'd fucking do it.
Of course he would. Oh, yeah. Sean Strickland would do it. If gunfighting on motorcycles championship offered him enough money, bro, he would definitely, like, that dude is real. Like, he will go out there. If the paycheck is right, he will go out and have combat of any kind.
I feel like this sport would be great for him.
Me too. I do too. I think he'd be great. So we talked about Mike Perry. We talked about Conor. There's other names out there. You being the guy that you are, and you've covered all these guys, but now you're seeing Jimmy Rivera, Jeremy Stevens, Todd Duffy, Ben Rothwell, Mike Perry, and now King Mo was on our show the other day. He wants to fight in the BKFC. He's up for basically anybody 185 to 205. Are you surprised by some of the names that are actually coming over here now? Like I would imagine a lot of these guys were pushed back on it at first, but now they're all starting to come around. And I think that it is the Ben Rothwells and the Jimmy Riveras of the world and Eddie Alvarez himself, who speaks so highly of the sport. After trying it out, they're like, "Oh, dude, I love this shit. This is perfect. 5 2-minute rounds, 1 minute in between rounds." Are you shocked by any of the names that are coming over?
I'm not. Well, first of all, I just want to tell you how great it is to hear that King Mo is willing to fight anyway. Because during his MMA days, he always used to brag about the fact that he was a money weight. Wherever the money is, that's the weight that he'll fight at. And I love that about him. He's a money weight. But
Mo money,
man. But I'm telling you, no. Listen, Ben Rothwell, obviously been covering his career for 2 decades, man. And Ben Rothwell is somebody that I've trusted a lot in talking about his transition to BKFC, and he is just told me over and over about how, listen, man, I know it may sound weird, but this is actually an opportunity to compete longer for us combat sports athletes. It may seem like the more brutal sport. It may seem like the more gladiatorial sport. But the thing about MMA isn't about the fights itself. It's about the preparation for it. And when you can get rid of the grappling rounds, the wrestling rounds, all that stuff that just screws up your back, screws up your knees, man, it just makes it very difficult. And you could just work on, your striking training and your cardio training and all those things. And obviously for Ben Rothwell, he loves the weight class as well. But it is kind of interesting to hear, because on the surface, you look at BKFC and you're like, man, like, why would you go do that? Like, it seems more savage. And it is. It's definitely more bloody. You're definitely going to have more lacerations than you do in a normal fight. But what we're finding out is it's just that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not nearly the brutal. And it's the preparation. It's a lot easier. So, I'm not, listen, I'm not surprised. And listen, I was just having this conversation earlier today with my buddy Cole Coffey on the MMA Roadshow about the fact that, listen, one championship right now, fantastic organization. They're doing great things across Asia, but they're really focusing more on Muay Thai and kickboxing than they are MMA, right? So that's taken away some bout opportunities for MMA fighters. PFL and Bellator came together. Now, don't get me wrong, the PFL is growing and they're keeping Bellator going. But, I mean, that's really 2 companies under one banner, so that's one less bidder for fighters out there, right? Because they're not going to bid against themselves when they both run under the same umbrella. So, listen, there's less opportunities, and I think that's another reason that BKFC is being talked about more, is that, like, listen, this is a real opportunity to compete. And, yes, it's a different sport, but, listen, I think MMA guys that make the crossover are very well prepared. I mean, you've seen the way they prepared and the way they performed is that, look, maybe their striking can be a little bit fine-tuned and that thing along the way, but the toughness, the gritty, the durability that it takes to be in there, man, mixed martial artists have that. So, no, I'm not surprised with names. I honestly believe that for right now, BKFC is absolutely a viable bidder for anybody out there on the free agent market.
And we talked about names. I know we're going to be letting you go pretty soon, but we named all them names, Ben Rothwell, all those guys. And actually, before I do that, Ben Rothwell said something to us that really resonated with me and Mike. And just to relate it back to a military thing, a lot of people join the military at 18, 19 years old. You do 20 years and you get out, you retire at 39, 40, 41 years old. You have a whole nother life to start another career and work a whole nother career. And that's what a lot of military people do. They'll get out, they'll become cops, or they'll become a CEO, or they'll do something else with their life. Ben Rothwell was like, I look at it like this. I finished one career of my life. I have retired from that one, and I have a whole second career that I could do now because I'm only 42 years old. I'm not that old, and I can still throw hands, and I don't have to do all that other shit. It's like a whole second career for me. This is not a retirement home for me. This is another career. I'm like, man, that's amazing. And it really is.
Look, Ben has talked to me about the same. And again, now going back to what you were talking about earlier about the statistics and the medical studies. I mean, that's all important because in the beginning we thought, hold on. You do a life of MMA, and then your second career is this brutal gladiatorial BKFC. But I'm telling you, it echoes the MMA sentiment. In the beginning, we were like, guys, you're not going to believe this. MMA is actually safer than boxing. People are like, that cannot be true. You get knocked down and then they beat you up on the floor. We said, but wait a minute. You get knocked down and the fight's over. In boxing, they stand you back up and you have this concussion because of the gloves and you got to keep going. It's this whole education process. But man, Ben has echoed the same thing, and it's so true. And by the way, let's make one other thing with that military comparison. When you get done with the military, there's a retirement fund there for you, right? There's potentially, if you've served your whole time, you're collecting this money. Not in this game.
Yeah,
not in this game. They need to do something else. They need to have something else. And so, listen, I think in the beginning, people were very, very scared to say, man, we don't want these guys that we're saying are done with MMA to go to this BKFC stuff. Like, that's even worse. But I think what everybody's finding out, it's not necessarily worse, man. I mean, again, there's going to be some lacerations. There's no doubt. Like, there's going to be some blood in a bare knuckle boxing match. It's just going to happen. But you're not taking the type of long-term sustained damage in the fight, and you're not taking the type of long-term sustained damage in training for sure. So I that's why I say I really believe it is a viable option for people to look at.
Awesome, man. Hey, 2 questions real quick, MMA related. And then I want to rip through. We did a speed round with you last time, and it was funny. It was fun as hell. We have not done a speed round with anybody in a long time, and I think we want to do another one with you. Robbie Lawler fighting Mike Perry. Do you think that's going to happen?
Ooh, listen, I saw the pictures. Man.
What do you hear? Anything?
Damn it. I hope so. I don't know. I mean, this was a tough one for me because I feel like in a lot of ways it makes all the sense in the world. The finances got to make sense. The contracts got to make sense. I'm 50-50 on it right now, but I'm telling you right now, take my money. Take my money. Let me pay for it now. If I can pre-buy the pay-per-view right now, just on the possibility that it happens, I'm in. Yeah. I'm in.
Robbie, when anybody ever asked me who my favorite fighters of all time, Robbie Lawler is my favorite MMA fighter of all time. And then I have 4 or 5 other guys after him, but Robbie has always been one of my favorites since back in the day. One last MMA related question. The other day on the Jackson podcast, Rampage Jackson said something along the lines of there's about to be some news about John Jones that's going to shock the world. What the hell is he talking about? Anybody know?
No. There's been a lot of speculation. The unfortunate truth about John Jones, if he's involved, you never know what the news could be, man. That man has been in some issues over his years. So I don't know, man. I hope it's not. I hope it's not bad because listen,
it's something good, right?
We need to get this John Jones Stipe fight done because I think the fight that everybody actually wants to see. And listen, I don't want to rule out Stipe Miocic. That would be not right to pretend that he does not have an opportunity to win this fight because he absolutely does. But right now, the fight at heavyweight in MMA that everybody wants to see is John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, man. Tom Aspinall is that guy on the rise. Stipe, all the respect in the world. Again, I mean, no disrespect to him whatsoever in his accomplishments, but with the place that Tom Aspinall is at right now and the place that John Jones holds all time, that's the fight that everybody wants to see.
So, yeah, definitely that would be a fantastic fight, and I guarantee that everybody watching right now would fucking love to see that fight. John Jones needs to fight more. That's what I think, because I don't think we have him for much longer. There's always I feel like the space between his fights is so long, few and far in between. Like it just takes so long that we need to see more John Jones before he stops fighting.
It's true. Look, man, John Jones. It's so hard, right? Because if you go back a few years, I mean, there's no doubt John Jones greatest of all time. Now there is discussion. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's this. Maybe he's that. But to me, John Jones is the greatest of all time. He doesn't need to fight. He doesn't have to fight. And so that's, that makes it tough, right? I mean, how do you get somebody, motivated and ready to step in there and all those things? So it's tough. But yes, savor every John Jones fight, because I'm telling you right now, man, John Jones is gonna be one of those guys you're talking about for a long time, like generations to come. Like, what, you saw John Jones fight? Like, yeah, I saw John Jones fight. Like, the dude is generational talent.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Let's speed round John real quick, and then we have a special last question at the end of the speed round from an audience members. But speed round for you. First question, real quick. Fantasy matchmake. If you could pick any 2 fighters to toe the line in the BKFC, who would you want to see?
Oh my gosh, man, this is crazy, right? Any 2 fighters. I mean, if we're talking about high level striker, I mean, what about like Israel Adesanya and MVP in like a BKFC match. Like I would love to see the angles there because we think about like their kicks and the things like that, but the angles they could create and the moves and I mean, like, you know, going back in that lineage, like Anderson Silva back in the day as well. I mean, just guys like that. I mean, the guys are those high level strikers that are also like the patient counter strikers, because I think that's what we're really finding, right? Is if like, yes, aggression is important, but shot selection and accuracy is so impressive. So guys like that have pinpoint accuracy that can one shot, slip, move, counter, done. Guys like that would be amazing.
Nice. Good answer. Good answer. Right now, number 2.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate the new Roadhouse, and thoughts on that movie?
All right. Well, I'm not going to pretend to be some kind of Hollywood connoisseur, but in the terms of entertainment value for John Morgan, I guess maybe I give it like an 8 or something like that. Like, it was fun to me. Like, maybe started out a little bit slow, but once Connor was there, you know, doing his what, I think that's what people are trying to bust his chops a little bit for, like, man, what is this guy? I thought he was having fun. Like, he was playing like a ridiculous character. You know what I mean? So I liked it. To be honest with you, I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. I thought Connor was hilarious in it, and I thought that was the point. It was not to be like, hey, let me deliver like an Emmy-winning performance. It was like, let me be just this ridiculous character in here, and I thought he nailed it.
I think you and I and Mike all agreed. It started off a little on the cheesy,
it's a little
shitty
goofy,
side,
cheesy. Yep.
And then it picked up. And I thought it was pretty good too.
Once Gyllenhaal got to like the island, when he first got to the store and he talked to that girl, gave him the book. Like after that, I was like, okay, this is where I really start getting into that movie. You know, at that point, and it was good from there on out. In the beginning, it's super cheesy. I was like, wait a second, I don't know. I turned it on one night. I was like, I don't think I'm ready to watch this yet. I'm gonna have to wait till like Saturday morning when I wake up and sit down with a coffee and take care of this thing.
That's fair.
But it was good. I liked it.
I enjoyed it.
All right. Have you been to a show at the Sphere yet? If so, would you go see, and how was it in there?
So I have not seen any of the concerts that have been in there. You know, U2 opened up. My wife, my kid aren't big U2 fans. The tickets were a little expensive, so I didn't go. But we did go opening weekend to Postcards from Earth, which is basically like this ongoing Sphere experience show that they have. And I'm telling you, it's unbelievable, man. This venue, it's not cheap to get in. Whether you go to a concert, whether you go to the Sphere experience, it's not cheap. And so I imagine when the UFC shows up in September, it's not going to be cheap either. But it's worth it. You know what I mean? Because it's unlike anything else on the planet. And I've struggled a little bit when I first saw it opening weekend to understand what the UFC was going to do with it. Now, they haven't revealed any details yet, but now I think I understand more of the details. Like, you know,
can't even imagine.
The resolution to the screen is so high and the audio is so good. And they actually have the ability to like pump in smells and things like that, you know, to where like it's essentially like VR. I think it was my son that told me this. It's like VR without putting on a VR mask or a helmet or whatever. You know what I mean? So like what I think, and I'm just guessing, but what I think they're gonna do is like, you know, the octagon will be down there and the fights will be. And in the beginning, I was like, what will it be like stats and camera feeds and all this stuff on this massive screen? No. I think they're gonna make it seem like you're in Mexico City, you're in the Zocalo, you're in the Plaza, like you know what I mean? Because it feels like it translates. The screen resolution is so high, and what some of the stuff that U2 did, and some of the stuff that Fish did, and some of the stuff that the Grateful Dead, it makes you feel like you're there, and that's what I think. I'm just guessing because I don't know, we haven't seen it yet, but I think that's what they're gonna do, where it'll look like you're in the Plaza in Mexico City, you know, for this fight that's unfolding. I think it's gonna be out of this world. I literally cannot wait to see the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right inside like a gladiator arena, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
In the Coliseum.
It's going to be insane.
Insane. All right, here you go.
Is the Colby Covington beef with John Morgan real?
I'm not the guy that can answer that question, man. That Colby Covington is, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if it is or not. You know, with Colby, unfortunately, you don't know if he's playing a role or he's playing a character. Before everything happened at the press conferences and all those things, we had a really good relationship, to be honest with you, man. I actually liked Colby a lot. And so part of me in the beginning thought that, hey, you know, here's a guy that I know is a good dude. I can play along with them and it'll be fun. And then it just kept going. But I'm like, where does it go from here? Like, you know, you're not going to answer my questions. So then why am I? So I just stopped asking him questions. Like, are we going to keep playing this scene over and over and over again? So I actually, you know, personally, if he walked up to me right now, I would be more than happy to talk to him. But to be honest with you, I guess the answer to that speed round is I don't even know.
We didn't know if like you could break kayfabe, as they call it in pro wrestling, be like, nah, man, we have beers after every one of those press conferences.
No, we haven't, man. In fact, I reached out to him afterwards. After the first time it happened, I actually did text. Well, actually, I think it was after the second time. The first one I just laughed, and the second time it happened, I actually did reach out to him, just say, hey, man, if there's a problem, like I'd love to talk about it, because like I said, we had a great relationship before, and he didn't hit me back, and I did reach out to his coaches as well. And I was like, I have a great relationship with his team at MMA Masters as well. And I was like, hey, I don't know what this is about, but if there's an issue, like, more than happy to talk. And they're like, don't worry, I'm sure it's fine. We'll tell them. And never heard. So to this day, I literally have no idea if there's anything there legitimate or not.
Damn.
Well, you're going to have to jump him at a restaurant somewhere.
Definitely not going to happen. I know my role in those, but no, I'm good.
All right, last two. Here we go. If they made a movie, a John Morgan biopic, who would play you, and what kind of movie would it be?
Oh man, well, I've never even thought about this. I don't know who would play me. Hopefully, it'd be somebody who's relatable. You know what I mean? It was cool. Hopefully, it would be somebody that enjoys a frosty beverage. I don't know what kind of movie.
Would it be a comedy?
Yeah, maybe a comedy. I don't know. I guess that's for somebody else to tell. I don't know what my story is from the outside, but I don't know, man. Hopefully it's somebody that just people realize is passionate about combat sports, passionate about MMA, that has been blessed enough to watch this thing grow from infancy to where it is. Somebody that has a hell of a lot of respect for every athlete that steps in there and loves nothing more than to give them a platform and to give them an opportunity to shine. So hopefully it would be tied into combat sports somewhere, and hopefully it would be that of a good husband and a good father as well. I try to do okay. Maybe I'm not always the best. I told my wife the other day, I was like, look, I know I'm not perfect, but hopefully I'm pretty fucking cool. You know what I mean? I try to be. So.
Hell yeah. That's a great answer. The reason why I thought that was a good when we talked to you last time, we asked you what was the best location you've ever been to for an event. You said Brazil. What was the sketchiest place you've ever been to? You said Brazil. So you're like, well, I've had some of the greatest moments of my life, and I've definitely put myself into positions where I maybe didn't almost make it out alive. So Brazil was the answer. Like the biopic of the John Morgan MMA journalist doing the craziest shit on the road. Like, that's
as I've grown older, I've tried to settle down a little bit on that, but yeah, man, there's some, and it's really funny because like, it's so wild. It's been so many years and there's been so many trips. Like there's so many stories that I just don't even come to mind. And somebody be like, bro, do you remember this? And I'm like, oh my God, that was insane. Like I have literally done some stupid stuff. Some really dumb stuff over the years, but some great stories and some great experiences, that for sure, man. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Ben says Channing Tatum would play you, and I think that's a good idea. Channing Tatum plays you, and it could be somewhat of a comedy drama, and it follows an MMA journalist, your life, and all the little intricacies that actually are pretty funny when it comes down to it. Because as Kyle and I have found out over the last 4 years, there's a lot of funny, weird shit that happens behind the scenes that no one ever really knows about, and it is funny. Some funny things happen. So
it's great, and some of it are stories that can't be told for years and years and years. But some of stories that can never be told, but they're fun.
Yes,
I was thinking Shane Gillis or maybe even Danny McBride cleaned up.
Oh yeah,
Danny McBride's
awesome.
Kenny
I love
Powers,
Danny McBride.
but you get the fresh cut, shave him up. He would play you hilariously in crazy situations on the road. It would be fucking great.
One of my favorite comedic actors.
He's great.
Last question for you. Go ahead, Mike.
When Mike and Mish come out to Vegas for the very first BKFC in Nevada, damn it, let's go. I cannot wait. What kind of drinks are we buying John Morgan?
Well, if they're on your tab, they're the most expensive drinks we could possibly buy.
Good.
You know what I'm saying? Like I know the type of funding that this show has. You know what I mean? So we're talking. Let's rack up them. We're in Vegas, baby. You know what I'm saying? Let's get some VIP service. Let's go bottle style.
Hell yeah.
But then when it comes around to my turn and it's my round to buy, we're just buying some ice cold PBRs, man. We're doing frosty beverages, like you know what I'm saying. Like I'm in for a long time. Like there's some marathon sessions from time to time. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of budget for volume. You got to kind of budget for duration. You know what I mean? So I'll take you guys. I'll take you guys to Dino's. There's a great dive bar here in Las Vegas called Dino's. That if you drink PBR in the bottle, you walk up and they ask you what suit is underneath the bottle top. And if you guess what suit of card is underneath the bottle top, it's free. So like you can literally walk up and order a round of 4 bottle beers. And if you happen to guess all 4 of them right, it's just like, hey, here you go. It's free. So we'll make sure that that's in the rotation.
Man,
so,
we're going.
Have you gotten 4 right before, or what's the most?
I mean, listen, I've gone 0 for 4. I've gone 4 for 4. But I mean, I'm telling you, there is nothing. I mean, can you imagine the feel? I mean, there is no better feeling in the world than walking up to a bar in Las Vegas and just walking away with 4 free drinks, right? Like, hey, I mean, you know what I mean? That's hitting the jackpot right there.
That's amazing. We're going to be out there. I know it. By the end of the year, we'll be in Vegas for sure. I got to just ask this one from the audience before we let you go. Our buddy, Big Ben.
He has joined us together.
You know that he's a -1% owner of this show, right? We've told you this before. But what do I have to do to get you to a live show? What is it going to take?
I gotta get out, man. The schedule's crazy. You know, it's funny. I've been on the road the last 2 weeks. I was actually supposed to go to UFC 302 this week. I had to make a last minute change and not make the trip. I've got 2 trips the next couple. So my weekends are tough. I'm not gonna lie. Look, as long as there's not a CFFC going on when you guys make it to Nevada, which is definitely gonna come, I will be there for sure. But I need to make it out to one of the shows on the road for sure, man. I'd love to come see Mike Perry compete. I mean, obviously the shows down in Florida have been big. California, to have that on the radar now is unbelievable. So I need to do it. Me and Ben have been talking. Obviously, there's a little inside joke in there because him and I have been talking for a little bit that I need to make it out. I want to make it out. So, Ben, I assure you, we will make it happen.
Being in Vegas, right? Salt Lake City's not super far away, right? Lake City, I think they're going to be back there sometime later this year. They're going to be in Denver this week. They frequent Albuquerque, now Temecula, California is coming up in a couple months in July. So you got some options, John.
There are options. I would humbly beg of Ben that he understands that my schedule is very full, and I also have a son as well, and I try to be a decent parent on the weekends. I'm not doing things, so it's hard. It's harder than it may seem on the surface, but I will admit I got to make it out there.
Love it, John. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time once again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I feel like we can talk to you for 3 hours straight. We could have asked you about chael boxing, Anderson Silva. We could have talked to you about Paige Van Zandt getting dropped by a fucking porn star. Like, there's so much stuff we could have talked about.
So much. But we'll have you back on if you will come back on and join us again.
Definitely, brother. Anytime, guys. I appreciate it. It's always fun chopping up with you. So I appreciate you guys having me back.
All right, and hey, are you on a new YouTube channel now? What are you up to? What are you up to? If you want to plug all your stuff real quick.
Yeah, check that out. I mean, obviously you can find me on social media, John Morgan MMA for Instagram, John Morgan _MMA for Twitter /X, however you want to refer to it. The MMA Roadshow, the long-standing home. But I've been doing a show for the last year, basically probably after I got done talking to you guys on Grind City Media, which is actually a media company that's owned by the NBA's Memphis Grizzlies. And so I do a podcast on their Cage Side with John Morgan with Eric McMahon, who actually works with the Memphis Grizzlies and who's also a licensed MMA referee and actually is I believe working on getting licensed for BKFC as well. So somebody that you guys might need to know as well. Him and I have posted a podcast together for last year. We've actually just started placing some interviews with Grind City Media as well. Just talked to Frankie Edgar this week. The David Feldman interview was there with Grind City Media as well. Manel Kopp last week. So we'll be doing like a once a week type interview with Grind City Media as well. But it's cool. I mean, there you go. Combat Sports. It's the NBA's Memphis Grizzlies that owns this media company. And they're like, hey, we're interested in having a little combat sports coverage. You know what I mean? So we want to do that as well. So that's out there as well.
I love it. One day they'll need some bare knuckle coverage. You know a guy. You know some guys.
Coming. It's coming. I'll let him know. I love it. We'll put it right in there. I was like, I don't know if you can afford. I don't know if you can afford these guys, man. They're irate, but I'll at least put the meeting together.
A couple of Army idiots, a couple of stew nods from the East Coast.
A couple of stew nods, huh? Come on.
John, thank you so much. Mike, got anything else for him?
Always a pleasure talking to you, John Morgan. You are definitely respected across the board. All combat sports, everybody who watches any combat sport knows who you are. Very well respected. Love having you on. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We might have went over by a couple of minutes, but I think we're good. But hey, we will see you very soon. Thank you for talking with us tonight. And everybody else, when we come back, we'll go outside the circle and talk about a few things that have been going on in the combat sports world. Let's look at a little clip with Mr. Jeff Houston. Take it easy, John.
Later, John.
Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
Jeff Houston. Wow. Mike's got a question for you.
Oh, shit. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm here with Jeff Houston, best announcer in the world. We're going to ask you a couple of questions. Okay. Wow. Name the top 3 cartoon theme songs. Go.
Captain Caveman! All right, I got one. All right, let's go ahead and let's think about this, because the thing about it is that when you're talking about cartoon shows, you're thinking about so many different generations and everything like that. We're ready to party. We're ready to party. We're ready. I hope you bring lots of spaghetti. Garfield and Friends. I'm sorry. All right. All right. Here we go. Heathcliff, Heathcliff, no one should terrify the neighborhood, but Heathcliff just ain't get no one playing pranks on everyone.
Man, fantastic, Jeff.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Ready? Now, I'm going to put somebody on the spot. What movie is this from? Say something.
From the Mr. Mac show.
Tell him Lodge Mod sent you.
Oh my God! Don't even give me that shit about that. Don't even get me started on that.
What is it?
Oh my
What
God!
is it?
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get my close up for this one. Everything. It's not for sale, Francis. Come on, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Don't even.
Jeff Houston's a goddamn legend.
Is there a basement in the Alamo?
There's no basement in the Alamo.
Hey, this is Andrew Glenn. A shout out to Mike and Mish, BKFC, #1.
There is no basement in the Alamo. Man.
Yeah, that was funny as hell. He was
That
really
was great.
feeling.
Great
You know
memory.
what? A lot of personality in that man on the microphone. That was a great conversation with John, as always,
Yes.
man. I love that he comes on here and he talks bare knuckle with us. We got as much as we could in a short amount of time with him, and even had a fun speed round. John Morgan's a fucking gangster, man, for sure.
Yeah, apparently the last time he was on here, following that episode, he was doing a weigh-in show for UFC, and Big Ben, our Big Ben, was in the comments, and he shouted us out, and John Morgan was like, hey, yeah, those guys were awesome. They gave me the longest interview I've ever done in my life. So apparently the last time he was on here, he was here for an hour and a half. He had another obligation tonight, or we would have tried to break that record for sure. We could have gone 3 hours, I think. No problem. No problem at all. We didn't even stop for a second and barely even brushed the surface of BKFC, what's been going on the last year, all the intricacies. There's so many fights, so many things we could have talked about, and the future. I mean, the future is bright, and we could have talked about it for a long time, I think.
We did hit the big points, though. We hit the big points. The growth, the merge, the Connor buy-in, the maturity, the maturation. Is that the word? Maturation?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that I'm going to say it's right.
Mike Perry.
This is our show, and whatever word you want to use, you can use it.
Yeah, man. And I do. And Big Ben said it right there. You guys click so damn well together. I do feel like we do click well with John, and we can have a real conversation with him. So that was awesome, man. Who knows? I threw those last two about the Lawler versus Perry. Do you think it's going to happen? He said, I don't know, but take my money in advance. I'll pay whatever the pay-per-view is. I want to see it. And then the Rampage one, I was just wondering if he's heard anything, because that Rampage Jackson just dropped that freaking Easter egg. Little nugget. He was like, just so you guys know, there's about to be some huge news about John Jones, and it's going to shock the world very soon. It's coming soon. And like, nobody on his podcast knew exactly. Like, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he was like, I'm just telling you, I know some things, and it's coming soon.
Well,
and I'm like, man, if anybody's gonna maybe hear a little something, maybe it's him. Maybe it's John Morgan. Maybe heard a little rumblings, but no, he hadn't even heard anything. So, are we going outside the circle or what?
Yeah, you know what, Kyle? I think we should. We got a couple of guests tomorrow night. I have some stuff going on Friday. Don't want to stay up too late, but guess what? We do have enough time to go. Outside the circle, baby. What has been going on outside of the circle? And that circle is the squared circle. That is correct. If that's what you thought, you are right. Here we go. First topic on the board is this topic. You just brought it up just a minute ago, Kyle. You just brought it up. Elle Brooke versus Paige Van Zandt. This fight happened. I did not watch it when it was on.
I watched it. No, I didn't watch it when it was on.
I didn't watch it when it was on.
And I did not know that you were going to bring this up on Outside the Circle tonight, but I actually did watch the full fight today.
Yes.
And I will tell you this. I do think it's embarrassing for Paige to go to a draw with this girl. But it was pretty damn entertaining between the two of them. With that being said, it looked like this girl, Elle Brooks, was on the same level as Paige Van Zandt, which means that the downfall, do we call it a downfall? I just don't think that she's too focused on fighting anymore. Like, she must not have been training too much leading up to signing this contract, but she did say that she has a multi-fight contract with Misfit Boxing, so maybe she's going to take it serious now. It wouldn't have been a draw if she didn't get dropped in the first.
Yes. Speaking of that,
that's the whole.
I actually have it, Kyle. Let's take a look at it.
Can you imagine an influencer is fighting Paige Van Zandt and going toe-to-toe with her?
And this is what I said.
The girl Elle Brooks did not look terrible, and I was entertained by the fight. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. It was a 5-round fight. It was back and forth the whole time. The girl Elle Brooks kept shocking me with some of this. Like, Paige would like land little nice inside uppercuts on her and like try to start throwing flurries, and then that girl Elle Brooks would like dip and then pop her with a counter, and it would land much harder. It didn't look like Paige Van Zandt had any power behind any punch. I will say that. It didn't look like she had power behind a single punch that she threw in that fight. She threw more. She landed more. She looked like the more experienced fighter. Of course she is, so she looked it.
Yeah.
But the one that was landing the more damaging shots was Elle Brooks. I was like shocked by it. I was kind of amazed by it, dude.
I think what really got me was, now we're not watching top level professional boxers here, right? And that's no offense to either one of them. We all know they're not boxers. They've been boxing for years, right? I think what really pulled me in was the fact that Elle Brooke is serious about fighting. So, like, when I thought about Misfits Boxing, I've never watched Elle Brooke fight before. I might have seen, like, clips of different things here and there because I'm always watching combat sports stuff.
Those were not boxing matches that you were looking at clips of her. No. Nope.
Oh, damn it. That's right.
Wrong,
no, but here's
wrong website, Mike.
Wrong sport. Donkey punch. That's not the same thing. Here's the thing, right? But watching her, I did not think that, when I watch this fight, I'm going to watch anything that resembles two professional fighters fighting. I was thinking it was a joke. This is a joke. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take this serious when I watch. It's going to be ridiculous. It's stupid, but it's going to get people to watch it. So it's kind of good for the sport because people start watching. The same thing with the Jake Paul. Like at first it was like, it's going to be a gimmick. But then I started watching. I'm like, the kid's really taking it serious. And he wants to fucking fight. And he's beating people with names. Maybe they're not big boxing names, but you know what I mean. So when I start watching this, I see that she's taking this seriously. And she drops Paige Van Zandt, which I already had prior knowledge of it happening. But when I saw it happen, I was like, wow, I still was surprised by it happening. And she fought hard and she fought to win. And their levels of competition with one another were pretty equal. So, like, it wasn't like it was like she doesn't know what she's doing. Elle Brooks doesn't know. Paige Van Zandt's a UFC fighter. She's got all this knowledge and it's going to be stupid. It was not that. And then if I can say something about Paige Van Zandt, I just don't know if she's a great striker or ever has been a great striker. Yeah. Even though she fought in BKFC, she's practiced a lot, whatever. I don't know if that's in the cards for her. She just doesn't, unless she just didn't take this serious and didn't train enough. But I know that Elle Brooks takes it serious. I can tell.
Well, one thing is for sure, she needs to take it serious because she did sign a multi-fight deal. And they are going to line up the rematch, obviously, because they are fucking went to a draw. And it was entertaining. It was and like anybody that watched it
because it was competitive
is saying that it was fucking stupid. Whatever. You're just hating at this point.
It's not like high level boxing,
right,
but it's two people who are on an equal playing field fighting each other, right?
Right. And it was 5 rounds of entertaining fighting between two hot girls. And you can watch their fight and then go look at their other professions and enjoy them even more afterwards. They could collab on something and make even fucking more money.
They fight each other and try to knock each other out, and then they knock your bank account out.
Let's call it what it was. It was 2 hot girls on Misfit Boxing putting on an entertaining 5-round fight that the outcome was not really forecasted by anybody that knows anything about combat sports. But now we do, and now we're looking forward to the rematch. So on to the next one, Mike.
Well, so after this happened, now I'm going to tie this in right here with a little bit of some bare knuckle stuff. After this fight happens, we get this post from Jade Massan Wong. And she's basically asking people, which champ would you like to see me fight? And she posts Christine Faria or Elle Brooks. And this got some people, Christine's in the chat saying, do you want to be a real champion or a gimmick? Which, I mean, it does make sense, right? I get it for Jade because Jade sees that money. And this is like, this is the problem that we have in this combat sports world now is that she sees this. She's like, ooh, I can fight this pretty girl for money. And I'm going to probably make more money over here because you're going to dump all this money on a fight because you have this going on. I can't say for certain, but I would 100,000% rather see her fight Faria, right? I way rather see that. And for her actual fighting legacy, Faria is the only way to go.
Right.
But for money,
and
maybe
I don't want to sound like a fucking asshole here. Jade Massan Wong is not the name that Paige Van Zandt is. So, Paige Van Zandt has 1.2 million followers. Yeah, she was in the UFC.
Combined, she's got even more than that.
She has the most successful OnlyFans page on the fucking platform. She is a superstar in her own right. Jade, I don't think is there. So, like,
Jade has 113,000. She got a decent following.
That's a decent following. It is, but
on Instagram, yep.
But she's the number 1 contender in the BKFC. Yes. It's fucking ridiculous. That right there is 100% a money grab. Now, could she go fight Elle Brooks in a boxing match and then come back and fight Misfit? Yes,
probably within weeks.
Probably within 3 weeks of each other.
Yeah.
So if that's the plan, if that's the game plan, if she's just trying to drop a fucking little idea nugget in the Misfit Boxing's ear, it's not going to make a difference though, because they're going to make that fucking Paige rematch. So in the meantime, while Paige and Elle Brooks is getting booked, you might as well go try to fight for the belt in the division that you actually compete in professionally. Just fucking do it. You're a star in the BKFC. People want to see Misfit Faria against. Isn't it weird that it's Misfit versus Jad, or Jad fighting at Misfit Boxing against Elle Brooks?
Yeah.
That just popped into my head right there. But everybody wants to see her fight Misfit Faria, not Misfit Boxing. So fuck that noise. Unless there's like $1 million paycheck, then I can't hate her. Go get the fucking money and then come back and fight Misfit Faria. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that.
I know that, Jade can do whatever she wants, right? But she is in BKFC. She is the next name that's supposed to be fighting Christine Faria, right? And if she wants to stay in the conversation, she's got to be serious about fighting the champ. The champ needs a fight. Let's respect the champ and give her a fucking fight. We need to see Christine Faria fight. She is the champ. She needs to defend her belt. You're the next person in line. Let's get this fight, please. Because here's the thing. Anytime you mention another name, hey, this would be nice to see Christine Faria fight X fighter, right? You insert name here of fighter. All of a sudden, here come the people, Jade. What about me? I'm still here. I want to fight. But then all of a sudden, hey, I'm going to go fight this, right? I get it. Money is very enticing and everything, but let's just see this Faria versus Jade fight. Please, for God's sakes, get the champ in the damn circle. I want to see it.
Did Howie hit his vape pen too hard? He says other way around. She may not get boxing match after that unless it's months down the road. He's
saying fight Christine first and then fight Brooke.
He's saying that.
Yes.
Well, that's dumb because if she fights Christine first, she might be too fucking damaged to like. It'll take. What we're saying is that she could go fight Elle Brooks, beat her, and then fight Misfit Faria 3 weeks later because she might not take any fucking damage. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see major damage coming from that fight. But
either way, I don't want to see her fight Elle Brooks. I want to see her fight fucking Misfit.
Yes.
So fuck that shit. I'm done with that conversation.
Yes, we are biased, but also if I could try to pull the bias away, God damn it, Jade, just fight for real. Let's see this friggin' fight. Jade Massan Wong versus Christine Faria in Las Vegas. Let's do it. Yeah. Anyways, moving on from that, we have another subject here, and I'm naming this Ronda Rousey the bad guy. So here's a little report from MMA Junkie, and I'm sure a lot of people have been paying attention to this. It's been popping up in my feed left and right, doesn't matter where I go. Okay? She's saying that everybody talks shit about her, everybody hates her. If she showed up, people would boo her, which she's probably not wrong, but it's not like they're going to freaking parade her out like they do with Trump when he comes to a UFC event. So it's not like she's just going to walk in the room and the whole place is just going to boo her. She's going to get there at some point, and she's going to sit down in her seat. Here's the thing. And I don't know Ronda Rousey personally. I've never talked to her in my entire life. But I do remember one thing about her, and it's that I didn't like her. Okay? And I don't really dislike anybody. But just her attitude and the way she talked and the way she carried herself and after her fights, and I don't know, I was not feeling her entire career. I was like, I just don't like the way she is. I don't like her. So I don't like her attitude at all. And that's just the way it has been the whole time. And I feel like many people obviously had the same sentiment that I did about her. And now she's looking at that and blaming everybody else. And it's like, well, is it everybody else or is it you? And that's the thing. Like, is everyone wrong or is it you? Are you the person who's kind of a crab? You know?
Here's the thing, Mike. She is a pouty baby, right? She has been. Like, she she was on top of the world, and when she did lose, she made excuses, and she was a fucking pouty baby about it, and then she disappeared for a year, and then she came back acting like the fucking queen of the world again, just only to be even worse than the last time. Either fucking way, dude, she did herself no favors by being a coach on The Ultimate Fighter, because she was a raging fucking twat the entire time. Sorry for using the word. I don't know if you guys want me to use a different one. Like cunt,
I like that. It was good.
Or she was.
No, it's perfect.
She was a raging twat the entire time.
It's good English. I feel like
she was English a fucking bitch, and everybody loves Cupcake Misha Tate, right? Everyone loves.
Yeah,
Misha
she
Tate.
was chill.
Misha Tate comes in. She's a sweet girl. She's like a chill girl on TV, and Ronda went all in on the fucking heel role there, but she wasn't playing a role. She was just being a fucking raging bitch the entire show, flipping her off, acting like an asshole the whole time. You're there for the fighters to be coaches. It just seemed like it just seemed like she made the entire show about her, and I fucking hated it. I hated the season. I thought even less of her attitude and her personality after that season than I already did before. So I don't know. And I always had a fucking bad taste in my mouth from her when she was in all the way back in Strikeforce, dude, all the way back in Strikeforce. Before the UFC bought Strikeforce, Ronda Rousey was the hot ticket, right? She was the seller. She was the one, the next big thing, which she was. And don't get me wrong, she could even be on the Mount Rushmore of MMA because of what she did for women's sports. She was a groundbreaker, and she did what she did for women. But after a fight in Strikeforce, and you guys can find this on YouTube, it's somewhere in the ring after she won, she got the microphone in her face and she said, "There's a girl in the back named Chris Cyborg. I want to fight you. We could do it here in the ring. We could do it in the back. We could do it in the parking lot. I want you, Chris Cyborg." She said that, right? Chris Cyborg, and then she goes, and then the UFC buys Strikeforce, and all that shit happens. And then finally, Chris Cyborg comes to the UFC, and Chris Cyborg says, "I want to fight you. Let's meet at 140 pounds." And Ronda Rousey could have fought her at 140 pounds. She said she wanted her back then. And now she's like, "Nope, now this is my company. You got to come to 135, knowing damn well that fucking girl who's 5'8" and walks around on 175 pounds cannot cut 40 pounds to 135. She made it very clear, I can't make it to 135 healthy. Let's meet at 140. And Ronda was like, "Fuck you. I'll never fight you." That right there. I was just like, you know what? She's afraid of Chris Cyborg. She's scared of Chris Cyborg. She's scared of Chris Cyborg. You know who's not scared of Chris Cyborg? Misfit Faria. Faria, I wish you would find Ronda Rousey playing video games somewhere and slap her headset right off her fucking head and call her a pussy for not fighting Chris Cyborg.
Before we move on, Daryl Schrock said that's why the heel role in WWE fits her so well. And you are correct. It does fit her well. However, she then turned around and burnt that bridge too.
And then shit on the WWE, right?
Yeah. So is it UFC,
it's her.
WWE,
her
Mike and Mish, and every other fucking person in the world? Or is it her? And I'm going to say it's her. I've dealt with many people in my life. I do not know her. Like I said, I never talked to her, but from I listen to tons of podcasts with her on it. I've seen plenty of videos. I've seen all her fights. I've seen her post and pre and post fight interviews. I've seen her on shows, everything. She is an asshole. That's all there is to it. She's got she's not my type of person. I can tell you that right now. I would never hang out with her if I met her in real life. She is not a chill person, as far as I can see. Anyways, let's move on. And we're going to talk about something pretty cool that happened this right here. Some more UFC talk a little bit. Luque versus Diaz. Nick Diaz is back. What do you think about Nick Diaz coming back? And let me tell you before you say anything, that card is headlined by Corey Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov, and followed by Marlon Vera versus Davison Figueiredo, Mackenzie Dern versus Lupi Godinez, or is it Godinez, and Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chiesa. That's so far what the card is.
What I thought was weird and kind of interesting is the way it was announced. Did you watch Dana announce that fight? It was like he breezed over it. He was like, what's the number?
Is it Sandhagen?
Is it 3-0? What is it? What's the BKFC? What?
It's UFC Fight Night.
UFC. Sorry, UFC Fight Night. What?
It's well, actually, it says UFC Fight Night Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov. It says Etihad Arena, Yas Island. So.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, in Abu Dhabi, right? So he announced it via video like he does. He's like, "What's up, fight fans?" And you know how Dana does that shit.
Yeah.
He was like, "What's up, fight fans? BKFC Fight Night. It's going back to Abu Dhabi. We got Corey Sandhagen taking on Nurmagomedov. We got fucking blah blah blah." And then he goes, "Nick Diaz is back fighting Vicente Luque, and we got this and we got that." And I'm like, he just said Nick Diaz is back fighting Vicente Luque, and that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
And then he moved on to the next one, and then he moved on to the next one. I was like, wow. I'm like, I would have thought they would have kind of been, or like Dana himself would have been like, a legend's coming back. We haven't seen him in the ring in the octagon in a long time. Legend, blah 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 blah, like like a build up, and then Nick Diaz is back fighting. But he didn't do that.
Yeah,
Dana was like, and we also got we got Nick Diaz coming back to fight Vicente Luque, and we got this and this, and we got this and this, and I was just like, wow. I would have thought
he just threw it. Was just in there, blended in.
It was just in there. Like if you find the video, you'll be like, wow, he did just breeze right over that. I would have thought that Nick Diaz returning to the octagon was a little bigger news. But
yeah, it should be. But here's the thing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what he thinks about him. Maybe there's something going on that we don't know about. Maybe he's not excited about the fight for some reason, and that's why he's not, putting it up on a pedestal. I really don't know.
It is down at 170, right? When he returned. Who did he fight when he returned? It was Anderson Silva. When he returned at 185 pounds, and then he was like laying
on the ground.
Yeah, yes. That was at 185.
I thought you were talking about recently. Where he fought.
No. Who did he fight recently? I don't even remember.
Robbie Lawler.
Nick Diaz did?
That wasn't recent, but yes, that was, I think, his most recent fight in the UFC.
When the hell was that? I don't even remember.
Let's see. Nick Diaz versus
was that at 170?
Robbie Lawler. Let's see when that was. It's September
2021. Joe Ivy says.
Yeah, it was a little while back, but I feel like that's the last time I saw him fight.
Oh, okay. Was that at 170? Because I thought his last fight was at 185. But okay. Either way, I just thought it would have been a little bigger news. I love the Diaz brothers, and I thought Nick was retired and on to coaching and just living his life, but
yeah,
hey, he could still swing them fucking nunchucks around.
It was UFC 266, and it was September 2021, September 25th, I think. Yeah, I think it was September 25th. 2021. It was sad. Yes, he fought.
Maybe that's why.
And then he kind of like was
lame as hell.
Yeah, he's not the same. He's not the same fighter, and that's why like this Vicente Luque fight. I don't know how it's gonna pan out. Love the guy. He's definitely a legend in the sport. Everybody knows about him. He's a big name. And the funny thing is his brother. He was the popular one. His brother was the quiet one. And at one point in time, Dana White said, Nate Diaz is just not a needle mover. And I am telling you, I remember I was out for a run and I was in Manhattan, Kansas. I remember this. I was listening to a podcast. I remember Dana White saying that. I was probably listening to Ariel Helwani, and they played the clip of Dana White saying that. And I was like, yeah, well, we'll see what happens. And this was, I believe this was before he was going to fight Conor McGregor for the first time, but I'm not sure. But then that shit happened. He fell into that fight and he won. And then he became one of the biggest needle movers in the history of the fucking combat sports, dude.
Yeah.
He became huge. So, man, that shit is awesome. Good for him.
Remember what we
Hopefully,
talked about
we
once?
see him fight in BKFC. I want to see Nate Diaz in BKFC before the time's up. He was asked about it at Knucklemania 4. I watched some of the event back. He got asked about it. But you know what he did? He deferred to his boy, Nick Koring, who was right behind him and went like this in the background. And good for him for doing that.
Yeah. Nate, remember what we talked about once before? Nate, like you said, wasn't a needle mover until that first Conor fight, but he also wasn't paid until that first Conor fight.
Yes.
And once he got money, he became a star. And then, like, I think he like decided, like, I think he was reserved before, and then he got the bag, and then he was like, you know what? Fuck being reserved anymore. I'm just gonna say fuck you to everybody in front of me. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. We actually did the math on it. His first 22 fights combined wasn't more than the money he made that one night in the first fight with Conor McGregor. It was crazy. He turned into a rich superstar.
Yeah, basically an overnight superstar.
Yeah, he did. And we love
People
that.
knew who he was in the sport, but he was not a superstar at that point. But he turned into one.
Nate Diaz is a great personality and a great fighter. So
what happened in that fight was that the casual fan learned who Nate Diaz was. They were able to take themselves and insert them into his story. The underdog, the guy who was supposed to lose, the biggest star in the entire world ever in combat sports. He beats him on late notice, and he says, "I'm not surprised, motherfuckers." And everybody who was watching that was a casual fan, because let's not fucking pretend. The casual fan is where the money is. That's the rest of the world. You have the people who watch the fights, and yes, they make a lot of money. They stay afloat. We watch every fucking event. But the casual fan is where the fucking money is, man. If you can get casual fans to watch your shit, that means when you have big fights, you can get millions upon millions of people instead of the 200,000 people that watch it every time. You can get millions upon millions. Casual fans saw him that night and they loved him. They were like, that's me. I can do that. That's me.
He was popular before. He got ultra popular that night.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate to tell you this, Big Ben, minus 1% owner of this show. You might just drop to like minus 10% owner of this show. If you fucking actually think that Nate Diaz got popular when he smacked OG Shawnee Mac. That is not.
I think he's joking.
Popular. I hope he's not being serious.
Yeah.
We will take your minus 10% and flush it down the goddamn toilet.
Yeah. Yep. We'll have to burn money twice. But let's give OG Shawnee Mac a shout out. What's up, bud? How are you? Doing big things, baby. I love it.
Buddy?
I love it. So, hey, let's see. We don't have too much more to go. Okay. But we did touch on this little subject earlier. Here we go. We just brought him up with Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. There is BKFC president and founder David Feldman with Robbie Lawler, man. Robbie Lawler. What do you think about this?
God, Robbie Lawler. He holds in my heart probably one of my favorite knockouts of all time, my favorite fight of all time, two of my favorite picture moments in combat sports of all time. When he knocked out Matt Lindland in freaking Strikeforce, and he fucking when he dropped him, and then he hit him with the fucking almost kind of like Hendo hit Bisping. He hits him while he's down, and Lindland's feet stick straight up in the air, kind of like rigor mortis style, and Robbie grabs him by the ankles and like gently places his feet down for him. I thought that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life in the sport. Then he fights Robbie Lawler at he fights Rory McDonald at 189, and which was probably my favorite pay-per-view of all time. The fight was probably my favorite fight of all time. I was in Buffalo Wild Wings in Waterford with a bunch of soldiers that have never watched the UFC before. I don't know what fucking hole they live in, but I'm like, you guys are coming down there with me tonight. Conor McGregor's fighting Chad Mendes, Rory McDonald versus fucking Robbie Lawler. You got Jeremy Stevens fought somebody, Dennis Bermudez on that. You got Gunnar Nelson versus fucking some. It was a great card. Man, it was Amanda Nunes might have been on that. I don't know. It was a fucking fantastic card. The place was going fucking ballistic during that Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald fight. And the guys that were around me that had barely watched the sport were like, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, well, you just happen to be watching probably the best fight of all time. Robbie Lawler was that. There was the picture moment after the round 4 where they just stared at each other once the bell rang. And then John McCarthy had to tell them to go to their corners because they kept staring at each other with dead eyes.
That was the best.
Just like dead eyes, blood dripping everywhere. Then he gets the win. And then a little while later, he fights Carlos Condit. And I think he was the champ at this time. And he fights Carlos Condit, and they scrap it out to the last bell of the 5th round, to the point where like they're swinging on each other and the bell rings, and they both turn and put their hands up on the top of the cage. And they stood there for a good like 15, 20 seconds with each other, with their arms up on the cage, heads down, talking to each other. Who knows what the fuck they were saying, but somebody snaps the picture. You know, a million people snapped the picture that night.
Yeah.
The Rory and him stare down, the Carlos Condit and him against the fence, 2 of the greatest photos in MMA history, best fight of all time, one of the best knockout. With all that said, I would pay $500 for a pay-per-view to watch this fucking fight. I would. And I don't know if he beats Robbie. I mean, I don't know if Robbie comes in and beats Mike Perry, but I wouldn't put it past him. I think this fight's fantastic. I think Robbie Lawler's built for this sport, just like Mike Perry is. 2 totally different personalities, but 2 guys that were cut from the cloth to fight fucking bare knuckle.
Yeah, anytime anybody says, man, who's going to be next in BKFC? Who is Feldman going to sign next? Who, what star from UFC is going to come over and make BKFC their new home? Robbie Lawler is always on that list. It's always been, even just a few months ago or 2 months ago, we were talking about it at work. We were saying, like, who are they going to get next? Who can fight? Who do we want to see fight? And Robbie Lawler just comes up over and over and over again. And we talked to a few people, and I feel like I somehow got slightly convinced that he would never do it through talking to different... We talked to him, right? Yeah, and he was like, I don't think he's gonna do it. So, like, I was like kind of convinced when talking to him, like, he doesn't know, but he's just saying, like, I don't think he'll do it. From what I know, I'm not sure if he's gonna do it. And wrong or right, either way, I was like, man, that really sucks. And I kind of like slightly got convinced by it, like, oh, maybe he's not gonna do this.
If I remember correctly, when we talked to Jeremiah about it, and it might have been on the show, but it could have been a conversation that we had in person with Jeremiah. We asked him if he thought that Lawler would ever come over, and he said, and I want to say that he said that Robbie is like comfortable in his life. He's in a spot in his life where he's happy. He's got money. He doesn't need to do this. I don't think he would, because he's just happy in the spot that he's in right now. And I think that's what it was. We were like, oh, well, I'm going to say Robbie Lawler's never going to fight fucking bare knuckle. What? You never know.
Well,
I think it's
look at that picture.
I think things have changed, and I got to say, he looks pretty stout in that picture right there. Probably walking around 200 pounds. A 185 fight against Mike Perry would be incredible. Incredible, Mike.
Here's the thing. I don't think that David Feldman has enough time to just talk to people for shits and fucking giggles, okay?
I agree.
I think that he is a man with a mission. He has a limited time. In my Mike Hunnell life, I say every day, I don't have enough fucking time. I just wish I had more time to get shit done. So, being the president of the BKFC, I can assure you he does not have enough fucking time to get his life complete.
His time, yeah.
Nope. He has to be doing things at all times. Now, could there have been like happenstance, like, oh, I was here for something, he happened to be here and we took a picture? Sure. But he posted it because I feel like something is there where there's smoke, there's fire, and I feel like there's a fire. I do. Something is going on.
In the comments.
Something is fucking going on.
I agree with Howie right there. If it can happen, Dave will get it done. He has a proven track record.
Yes.
Over the last
I'm
5
very
years.
confident.
A proven track record. When he says he's going to get something done, he's basically gotten it done. And amazingly, a lot of times, a lot of people are like, "How the fuck is he going to pull this?" You know what? He does. He's got a good track record of it. And please, Mr. David Feldman, give us Robbie Lawler versus Mike Perry and put the King of Violence belt on the line in that fight. I know it's Robbie's first fight in bare knuckle, but he has a long, storied record of ultra violence in his MMA career. He is one of the most violent fighters of all time, and he fits the bill for the fucking King of Violence strap. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. I would love to see it. I think it's going to happen. We're going to be seeing Robbie Lawler and BKFC. It's a must. It's got to happen. He's going to make it happen. I have a lot of faith in Dave Feldman's abilities. So, moving on from that, I don't have much more here. We will talk more about the upcoming Prospect Series card in Denver tomorrow. I think we can hit on it a little bit more. But just for those who don't know, there's been a couple of updated fights on this card, so we're going to put them out right now. First one is this one, Schulte versus Armas. Roberto Armas is back from deployment, and this is his first fight in the squared circle since. Very happy for Armas, but also very sad for Ruben Arroyo.
Ruben the Beast Arroyo sustained a knee injury during sparring. I believe
as far as we know.
From what we know, he injured his knee, and it happened on the Friday of just this past Friday. Now he's supposed to fight 2 nights from now, Friday, so 7 days out from the fight. Sustained a knee injury, will not be able to fight on Friday coming up. So with that said, he had to be pulled. Hopefully it's a quick recovery for him and it's nothing serious and he will get a fight soon.
Get him in June, maybe.
In the meantime, Roberto Armas back from fresh off deployment in great shape. He continued training and getting in the best shape of his life while he was deployed, and he's kept in touch with us about this. He's ready to rock. And he is not taking his time getting back in that squared circle. He saw an opportunity, and he took it. So Roberto Armas versus Dylan Schulte Friday night. There it is. And there's another one too, right, Mike?
There is another one that happened. I do not have the official picture like that one right there, but I did take one off the website. Dom, the bomb carry, fell out. I don't know why he fell out. I'm not sure if you followed up on this. I tried.
I tried to get a hold of him, and I struck out. Let me check my messages to see if I missed something. No, he hasn't responded. So I don't know what happened to Dom the Bomb Carey. But he was supposed to fight in was it Andrew Strode? Andrew Strode.
Yeah.
But you know what?
I think this is a better matchup.
I do too. I was gonna say nothing against Dom.
Chancey's
very experienced, has a ton of fights in the BKFC already against the top contenders. And if Andrew Strode is that blue chip prospect that they think he is, fighting Dom Carey doesn't do all that much for his rise. Not that he would win automatic, you know what I mean? Like he could have lost to Dom
They're
Carey.
both 1-0s. Yeah.
They're both 1-0, but fighting a 1-0 Dom Carey and winning that may not have done what could possibly do for him a win over Chancey Wilson could. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. 3-3 Chancey Wilson. The one thing about Chancey, he's taken the fight on late notice, and he had some problems with Aguero when he fought him. I don't know much about Strode. We know something about Strode. We know Strode had a very, very in-depth amateur career that no one seemed to really pay attention to until he fought Kerry Caprio and saw what happened in that fight, which was a good fight. He got knocked down, and then he came back like a bat out of hell and
if I
fucking
remember
won that
correctly,
fight.
didn't he
But
have
he's a
a
good boxer.
tragedy? Didn't he lose like his
Yes,
girl
he
and
lost
his
his son and his girlfriend or fiance, wife,
right?
in a car accident. Yes, he did.
It was like
Yes.
1 year
Like
before he made
major.
his, like a year before he made his BKFC debut, he had this tragedy happen.
Super horrible.
And then he went on like a 3-fight losing streak.
He
in
did,
boxing,
yes.
And people were like, you know, people look at his record and you see 3 L's in a row. And then we talked to him on this show, and like he came out and was very open about it. He was like, "Yeah, man, I was like in a really bad spot in my life, and I had just lost, you know, 2 people very close to, you know, I lost my child and my girl, and you know, I've been fighting through it, and now I'm back, and I'm hoping to, you know, get, you know, get something going here." And he did. He came out. He fought Kerry Caprio, who's a fucking beast.
Yeah,
won that fight.
Yeah,
and now he gets an opportunity.
Magnificent fashion too. At that, it was good. That was a good one.
That was a good fight. Yes, they both dropped each other too.
He got knocked out in the beginning. I mean, knocked down in the right in the first round. He came back, knocked Caprio down, and then in the neck, I think it made to the second round, and he
it looked like he
clobbered.
It looked like he did something to the cheekbone of, or was it the jaw? Something was very swollen in Kerry Caprio's face. I can't remember what it was.
It was a good drop. He dropped.
So hey, you know what? It sucks for Dom Carey. It sucks for Ruben Arroyo. Hopefully, both of their injuries are minor and they can jump right back in there.
Yeah,
it does suck for those guys, but it also does create a great opportunity for Roberto Armas to get back in there off of a deployment and get right back on his horse there. And it also gives Andrew Strode a chance to fight somebody who has a record of fighting top contenders in the BKFC. He may be 3-3, but Chancey Wilson, go look up his record. He's fought all the fucking best dudes in the 125 division.
Yeah.
So he's fighting a Chancey Wilson who has all this experience. So, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. When you lose those 2 fights, they did very well replacing the opponents. So,
yep. So
good work, guys. Good work.
That is all I have for tonight. John Morgan, Outside the Circle. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. We love you all.
Hey,
that is all I have for tonight. But for tomorrow night,
I want to give our boy Big Ben a shout out.
Yes,
I will give Big Ben, because Big Ben, we bust his balls in the comments, but he is one of our most
we love him.
Yeah, but he's one of our most loyal friends in the BKFC community. We love Big Ben, but Big Ben is tight with John Morgan, and I don't know if we would have ever interviewed him without getting connected to John through Big Ben. So shout out to Big Ben. We love you, dude, and we do bust your balls, but you are still 1% owner, minus 1% owner. I don't give a fuck. You're never going into the positive.
That's right.
No.
That is right. So
and tomorrow night we got 2 people, right? We got Jamie Hinshaw, who we talked about last week when the rankings came out, and there was a little bit of a debate and a little bit of controversy. Not really a debate. Me and you both kind of agreed on it. But she agreed on it too, and she would just like to come on and talk a little bit about how she's back, how she's ready to fight, and what she thinks about getting pulled from the rankings. So we're going to talk to Jamie Hinshaw tomorrow night, and then we're supposed to talk to Dom Carey.
Yeah,
but he did lose his fight. I mean, he didn't lose his fight. He lost a fight.
He dropped off the card.
He dropped a fight. this week due to injury. So I don't know if I'm going to hear back from him. We might have to swerve.
We'll still have him on if he wants to be on.
We will absolutely have you on, Dom. If you're watching, we want you to come on and talk to us about what happened. But there's other options. We can get a few other people on here. We do have other fighters that are willing to come on. So
yep.
Tune in tomorrow night.
Maybe a surprise guest.
Yep. Maybe a couple surprise guests. Hey, thank you so much to John Morgan for coming on, giving us some of your time again. You're welcome back anytime. Anytime you want to talk some bare knuckle, we'll do it. And anytime you want to talk about MMA, me and Mike can do that shit too. So thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. And Mike, you got anything else?
Oh, I say peace.